world of handmade business can be tough when trying to monetize what you love. We've got truth bombs and motivation to help you find your way through. Passion to profit, let's start today, 'cause the world needs what you create. Tune in right now, it's your shot to learn how to be a handmade boss.
So I recently took a month off of my businesses, and in today's episode, I really want to share with you and kind of let you know what I did to be able to prep to take that time off. So if that sounds good and you're kind of thinking, yeah, you know what, I would love to be able to take a month off, maybe even 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe 2 months off, but I still like my business to grow. I'd still like the business to bring in money, profits, and still have that bottom line looking healthy, then listen up. So like I said, recently I took a month off, and it was a very kind of last minute decision, kind of all centered around my husband's job. Okay. So my husband left his job with a week's notice. Basically, I'm sure you guys can probably relate, but it was a job that he was being bullied in. It was a job that wasn't very good. It was really not what he signed up for. It's kind of one of those jobs that you go to Glassdoor, you look at and you're like, yeah, I should not ever have applied for this. I should never have taken that job. So basically what happened is that he left his job with a week's notice, and pretty well we were like, maybe the start date could be a little bit later and we could take a month off. And it was kind of like back and forth whether it would happen for a little while, because his new job was like, yeah, that's fine. But we didn't know that that was going to be a thing. So basically with about 2 weeks notice, I decided to take a month off. Okay. Now, I know that quite a lot of these kinds of tips and episodes always talk about, you know, you must book it 6 months ahead of time and you must do. But the problem with that is that I'm very much a person who likes to have spaciousness in their calendar, and spaciousness to be able to adapt to my moods, adapt to how I feel, adapt to my creative highs and lows. We are not machines. We do not operate at, 99.9% all of the time. Sometimes we are at 33%. Sometimes we're at 46. Sometimes we're like, yeah, it's 100%. Let's go, go, go. But we are not robots, right? And, if you do get a cycle, sometimes it can really differ, even depending on that, even depending on your health, depending on your energy levels. There's so many things that operate within our bodies, within our minds, that mean that we are not going to be at that level all of the time. So that's one thing that I did not do. I did not book this time ahead of time, but there are some things that I implement all of the time that enabled me to be able to have that big chunk off. Okay, so let's get into it. So the first thing that I did, and actually this was something that I started doing pretty well at the beginning of the year, and that was to look at what tasks brought in the most money, and I focused in on those. So what I mean by this is that you must track every process within your business. So for example, I track every single funnel that's coming in. So one of those will be Instagram. One of them will be the podcast. One of them will be YouTube. And basically I'll look at each of them and I'll say, right, so what effort, what energy, what time, what money am I expending on this thing? And how much is it bringing back? Now, obviously, some things cannot be measured in direct money. I'm spending X, I'm getting Y. Things like social media can be a little bit wonky when it comes to actually measuring this. But certainly you can kind of sit there and say, okay, well, I'm spending this amount of time, this many hours on this, and it's bringing me in this many views, which based on my conversion rate from my shop, is probably bringing me X amount of sales. Okay. So it's not always going to be an exact science, nor is it meant to be. But what this step means is really just looking at, is everything working as effectively as it can do within your business? At the end of the day, and this is something that I learned the hard way this year, whenever you say yes to an opportunity, you're inadvertently saying no to something else. So when I said yes to doing a podcast, yes to doing challenges, yes to doing all of these things, I'm taking my time, energy, and effort away from doing something else. So if you have a process, an avenue, a funnel, whatever you want to call it, an arm of the business that's not doing so hot, that could be craft fairs, that could be wholesale, that could be social media, that could be your email list, that could be anything that you're doing, then you need to take a good hard look at it and say, is this worth everything that I'm putting into it? And that is exactly what I did. And that's basically how we almost came to the decision to not film, and you probably would have noticed this, but not to film dedicated YouTube videos anymore. Now, you might have noticed that I completely took a break away from YouTube for like 2-3 months and basically just uploaded dribs and drabs. What we're doing now is we're actually doing video versions of the podcast. So if you'd rather watch this, go onto YouTube, but you will have ads. So there's that to think about. But what I decided to do is that it was absolutely not really worth my time anymore because of how YouTube has, really altered to become more clickbaity and all the other things, right? If you want to learn more about this, if you go all the way back to episode 1, I'll talk a lot more about that. But that was a decision that I took because I was spending a lot of hours every single month batch recording videos, batch recording this and writing down notes for that and researching that. And it just became a big time suck for not a lot of return. Whereas with the podcast, I felt like it was going out to multiple different places at once. And it was a place I almost felt was a clean slate. There was no clickbait. There's no ads. So it's just a really nice, easy breezy place for people to listen, for people to consume, for people to watch if they really want to. And it's just a nice place to be. So this is the first thing that if you are looking to take some time off, you really need to just look at every avenue in your business and assess it. Now, I wouldn't be doing this for things that are quite new. So if you've been doing something for less than 6 months, you've not been giving it your all, then maybe it hasn't come to fruition yet, the amount of benefits that it's actually going to bring in. But certainly you need to really assess and look at your business. And honestly, I would be doing this every 6 months. I really wouldn't be ignoring things that you're, basically spending money on, spending effort on, spending energy on if you're just not really using it. The second thing is I cut out time sucks. And this really does lead me on to a couple of points later on in this episode, but you really, really, really need to make sure that all of the time you are spending in your business is for your greater goal, for the greater good. If you've ever watched Hot Fuzz, you know what I mean. I need you to DM me right now and say, yes, I know exactly what you meant. But you need to cut out the time sucks. Now, for me, this was Threads, weirdly enough. Now, I love Threads. I'm on Threads. I'm researching on Threads. I'm posting on Threads. I loved Threads. However, I was finding that I was getting sucked into posts and reading the comments. And I was like, wait a minute, I am spending too much time on this. So a really kind of nice, easy breezy way to do this is to actually go on your phone and look at your screen time. It's called screen time on Apple. I think it's called something else on Windows Phone or whatever. But look at how much time you're spending on what. For me, it was YouTube, but I do watch YouTube at night when I'm in bed, which I know is probably not the best thing to do, but I knew that that wasn't necessarily pulling me away from my business. But when I was looking at Threads, when I was looking at Instagram, when I was looking at all these different things that I was spending time on, I was thinking, right, okay, that's literally like 35 minutes a day that I could be spending growing my business. Hey, look, if you're spending 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, that is 2.5 hours a week that you can spend growing your business, doing something else. That's ample enough time for you to grow your profits. So why on earth was I spending it aimlessly scrolling on Threads? Now, you could argue, Steph, if you enjoy it and it was bringing joy to you, then yeah, sure, do it. And if it was bringing absolute joy to me and making my heart soar and my energy vibing high, I'd be saying, yeah, okay, fine, I'm gonna keep it in there. But it wasn't, and we all know it probably would never do that. So this is where I think, and this is something that I have done, I've actually got it as a shortcut on my phone, and it's a time audit. And basically, for a week, every six months, I will look at and I will track where I am spending my time, how much time I'm spending on X, Y, Z. And I will do this for me. I'll do it for the team. I'll do it for everybody because I need to make sure that I'm not only being effective, but everybody else is as well. So if you have virtual assistants, people that do different things for you, then this is also something that you might want to do and say, hey, like, I'm just doing a big time audit and I'm just making sure that we're all spending our time in the best way that we can do. So cutting out time sucks, although it sounds pretty boring, and you might be tempted to think, Steph, I know my time is already tapped out. I know I'm not wasting time on doing anything. Please, please, please just do this, even for a day, because I thought the same thing. I was thinking, no, I'm effective. My time is spent in really good places. There's nothing off the top of my head that I can think of that I'm doing that's wasting time. Boy, was I shocked when I actually started to track my time, looked at it at the end of the week and realized, okay, no, there are time sucks. There are things I'm wasting time on. And there wasn't always scrolling on social media. I know, like, scrolling on social media is always one of those things that we always default to. And it's always like, yeah, wasted time on social media. But actually, a lot of the time, it's things like washing up. I was washing up my lunch stuff. I was washing up my breakfast stuff, mainly because, side note here, if you've ever put eggy stuff in the dishwasher, you have that horrific eggy smell. And that's why I hand wash my stuff up. Just a quick side note here, because I know a lot of you will be like, Steph, do you not have a dishwasher? I do, but I hate that eggy smell, right? So I was washing up my breakfast stuff. I was washing up my lunch stuff. And then inadvertently, because we have quite a small dishwasher, learning a lot about my dishwasher in this episode, huh? I was washing up like pans for dinner. So I was actually washing up 3 times a day. And I was like, right, okay, so that's roughly about 12 minutes a day I'm spending washing up. So instead, I stacked everything up and washed up once a day for 2.5 minutes. And I know it sounds like a really stupid thing, but you're saving like 10 minutes a day. You add that up over 6 days, that's an hour you're saving a week. It's little things like that that you think, my God, I'm not spending a lot of time doing this. But when you add it up, it is all in there, Okay. The next thing stems from, I think, my personality. So if any one of you are procrastinators, you have ADHD traits, a bit like what I do, you're probably going to be like, when I say this, but I got ahead and I make sure that I am ahead of my schedule at all times. So I tend to operate in my head. If I have a deadline of, let's say, I don't know, a month from now, I will aim to get that thing done 2 to 3 weeks early. So many times have I left things until the very last minute. By last minute, I mean like 2 days before, 3 days before. And A, there's always things that need doing. There's always things that go wrong. And B, it just means that if you need to tweak anything, if you have to change anything, you're not rushing. You're not like doing a half-assed job because you're rushing around trying to do everything at once. So I always now, and it might take you a little bit of kind of, getting really into getting things ahead quickly. But then once you are ahead, it just takes you staying ahead. And I hope that makes sense. But I just made sure that I was ahead of everything at all times. I think when you're self-employed or when you work for yourself, you always have to have this as a bit of a buffer because you could get sick. You could break an arm or a leg or whatever. You could break a big toe. You could get struck down. You could just really have a bad mindset month. Multiple different things can happen. And being ahead means that you always have that breathing space. And I cannot tell you how much my anxiety has depleted now that I make sure I am ahead of things, because I know that I have 3 weeks buffer at all times just because I am ahead of things. Now, if you're looking at, how did you get ahead, Steph? Like, how did you make sure all these things were done? Listen up, because the next few points are going to be all about that. But make sure that you, not only now that you've really looked at your time, where you're spending your time, energy, effort, money on things and cutting out everything else, you're simplifying your business, you're cutting out all the noise. This should be especially easy for you now, because you should now that you've done the first 2 points, you should now have a list of things in your business that affects your bottom line and you have to do. So once you have those things, you'll be able to get ahead a lot easier than trying to get ahead on everything before looking at how you spend your time and effort, energy, money, etc. Okay. So to get ahead, I did 5 things. Okay. Number 1 is I delegated. Number 2, I automated. Number 3, I eliminated. Number 4, I batched. And number 5, I booked. Those are the 5 things that I do at all times to make sure that the business is running efficiently, to make sure that I am getting ahead, and just to make sure that everything is running like a well-oiled machine. Where problems start to arise, and don't get me wrong, there are always problems. There are still things that I can tweak and improve, and I know that. But I know that as long as I'm doing those 5 things, I have the best chance at keeping the business running the way it should be. So let's talk about each of those 5 things. So number 1, I delegated. Okay. Now, obviously at this level, I have a team, Team HB. You've probably seen them in the Facebook groups, on Instagram, replying to DMs, emails, all those kinds of things. But delegate does not necessarily mean you have to hire a team. It can mean you have a virtual assistant. It can mean you hire an expert. But if all of those things are outside of your kind of remit right now, you could delegate things instead to your family, your friends, your kids. Now, I'm not saying you have to get your kids to start working for you, but if you are spending a lot of time, and if you do have kids, if you do have a family, if you do have a lot, a very heavy social life, you probably have a lot of other people's needs that you're needing to fulfill at all times. Could you have a little chat with them and say, look, I need you to fulfill some of these needs by yourself? If your kiddos are too young, or you have pets that don't really understand this, could you kind of say to someone, look, I'm going to need help to fulfill my needs to XYZ. I honestly sometimes feel that we as business owners, we almost feel some kind of guilt, don't we? And it might be because, if you're listening to this and you identify as female, you might kind of feel this in an outside of business sense as well. But I do feel that we are prioritizing other people's needs over our own. And I really need you to think of your business not as something that's taking you away from your family, taking you away from your friends, but instead I need you to think of your business as the ultimate act of self-care. Because if this is a fire in your belly dream that you've had for a very long time, it's almost like you need to do that. And in order for you to do that, you need to delegate some things in your life, because maybe you've been taking care of too many things and too many people and too many needs for too long. So this is where I would say to my husband, okay, you know what? Hey, buddy, I need you in the mornings to empty the damn dishwasher, to put the washing away, to take the fluff out of the dryer. I need you to let Phoebe out for a wee. I need you to replace her water. Those are the things that I need you to do every single morning so that I can do my things and start work early. I am an early riser, so therefore I'm up at 6:30. I'm doing yoga. I'm doing all sorts of things to prep myself for the day ahead. Okay, I have a whole morning routine. Changing the dog's water and emptying the dishwasher is not one of them. So that's just an example. Now, I know that everyone's family lives can really alter, can really change, but I really need you to think outside of the box. How can you delegate some things off of your plate so that you have more time to put into your business, and especially into the things that work? Number 2 is that I automated. Now, automations are something that with the introduction of AI has gotten a whole heck of a lot easier. There are so many automation tools out there now. So you have things like social media, you have email, you have inventory management, you can process your orders automatically, you can do customer service. Now, there are so many different options that you have to automate things, but start with the easy things. Do you schedule and batch your social media? Do you use things like AI tools to help you write captions? Are you using tools such as Zapier and all those kinds of things to help you to do all of those little tasks that are taking you time, So look at automation tools. Just Google them. If you need help with XYZ, type in automation tool for XYZ into Google and see if there is anything that exists. Honestly, you will be surprised at what's out there. Number 3 is eliminated. Now, we've already spoken a lot about this, but I eliminated so much extra fuss and fluff and BS and bells and whistles from my business so that I didn't ever have to worry about it. Honestly, there is always so much stuff that builds up and builds up over the course of a year. all these different subscriptions, all these different tools, all these different things that perhaps you don't even use, the processes, the things that it's just so much. Just cut all of the noise out. And I know that we spoke a bit about this in point 1 and point 2, but you really need to make sure that you are doing that process on a regular basis to keep things lean and smooth. Number 4 is batching. Now, batching is my best friend. So I will batch all of my social media content in like 2-3 hours for the entire month. I will batch podcasts and therefore videos at the same time. What I also do is an automation tool, wink, wink, that I'm using Veed.io, Veed.io, which is a video tool that literally one of its big pluses for me is that it can create reels from videos, podcasts such as this, and I can use those for reels. So it's just another example of an automation tool, but also batching intertwined with this as well. So rather than doing social media posts on the fly, batch them. Oh my God. Honestly, this will save you so much time because you're not having to get into the headspace, go onto the tools, create posts, schedule them or post them and then done and have to rinse, repeat the next day, the next week, whatever. You've already done it all in one day. Now, point number 5 here is that I book all of these things in. So I will pre-book when I'm going to go through and look at what time I'm spending on things, when I'm going to look at automating different things, when I'm going to do this, when I'm going to do that. Not only that, but I have Asana, and if you don't use Asana, it's a free tool, and it's basically a calendar that you can automate tasks in. You can put different things in. You can put voice notes. You can put videos natively in the task itself, and you can invite people. You can, do all the things. I know like a lot of you probably use Google Cal, but I just found Asana so much easier for people that don't want to have to make a Google account and then like share that with other people. Like it was a whole thing. But basically I pre-book all of my weekly, daily, monthly tasks all in at the same time. So for example, rather than me having to think about, okay, how am I going to get my stuff over to the accountant? Instead, every single month, I'll have a recurring task that about a week before it's due, I will go in, I will do it, and I will send it to her. Therefore, it's done. I don't have to worry about thinking about this. So batching and pre-booking things, they do go hand in hand, but just make sure to book your batching days. Book the days you're going to look at your business. Book the days you're going to do all these different things within your business so you don't have to really worry about it. Or worst case scenario, be like, oh my God, I'm late. I have to go and do all these different things right now. The next thing is that I kept my business running, which I know sounds kind of obvious, but I wasn't having to worry about there being a massive income dip. Now, if you have your own Etsy shop, your own website, it could be as simple as pinning a social media post, sending an email out, or putting a banner at the top of your website or within your Etsy shop saying orders are still open. However, I have extended the shipping times, the processing times, whatever, to account for the fact that I am away for 3 weeks to 4 weeks. Right? So that is what I did. I did it with my planners. I did it with lots of different things, my jewelry business for one, but I just made sure that the communication was really open, but I kept things running. I kept the business open. I enabled my orders to be received whilst I was away. Now, the last thing that I did is that I had daily check-ins whilst I was away. Now, I know that you're probably saying, Steph, that's not time off. What the hell are you on about? But I am that kind of person that if I'm forcing myself not to check on things, I'm going to be like, this is really making me feel away. Like I'm not sure. I like this. I've been in my business for nearly 10 years now. And I'm like, I need to check on it because I feel like a part of me is missing if I don't. Okay. So I always had daily check-ins, but the check-ins were literally 5 minutes. I was like, hey team, is everything okay? Or I was checking on Etsy, checking on social media, and just making sure that everything was okay. The world hadn't imploded whilst I was away doing things. And I do think there is merit to people saying completely unplug, don't check everything. And if you're the kind of person that can do that, then go you. but I am not that kind of person, and I did still check in. But to be honest with you, because I'd done all of these things that I outlined in this episode, I didn't actually really need to do anything. And it was more to kind of satisfy my own internal cravings to check and make sure that everything was good, that I did this. Like the team or my businesses didn't actually need me, but I kind of needed them. So I was like, hey, can you tell me if everything's okay? And it was, is everyone happy on Instagram? How's the podcast going? Are all the links working okay? These things were all done, but it was just me and my own brain. So guys, I really hope that you found this episode helpful. If you are looking to take some serious time off, now let me tell you, I have never taken a month off of my business. Like honestly, since starting, I've always kind of been, I think the maximum I took off was a week when I got married. Apart from that, I've never taken this amount of time off. So it was a massive learning curve for me as well. But I hope that you enjoyed this, and I hope that it's maybe kind of giving you some hope if you are working in your business and you're thinking, oh, a month off sounds heavenly. It is possible at any level. So don't think it's not, and don't think that your business cannot still grow, cannot still run if you are right at the beginning, or if you're midway through your journey, or maybe you're still really growing it. There is opportunities for you to take some serious time off still. And it's taken me nearly 10 years to learn that that is a thing, but honestly, it is. Now, I also think that it is extremely helpful to take time off, because let me tell you, my most creative, expansive ideas have happened since I've been off. And whilst recording this, I'm like literally at the tail end of my month off. So it's been really awesome reflecting on the whole experience with you guys. Again, I really hope that some of these things you might have found helpful. But for now, my loves, I shall catch you in the next episode. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to How to Be a Handmade Boss. And if you're eager to boost your Etsy sales within just 7 days, then be sure to join my most popular free training at handmadebosses.com/conversion. You can also find the link in the show notes as well. Keep an eye out for our next episode, where we'll be continuing our journey towards handmade business success together. And until then, keep crafting and stay inspired, because the world really does need those special creations that only you can make.